Hello everyone, welcome again. It's Jack Diggins here and Ben Richards from the Collective XP Group. Are live at 5 on Fridays. If you haven't joined us before, we do a run through of everything that we do in our businesses, which you'll hear an array of companies which we run together, and we give you updates on the highs and lows and the struggles that we go through, and we try and give value and content for property developers, property investors, and also more importantly, business owners. We've got a lot to cover today and some exciting topics. To start off, XP turns 5 years old. We'll be sharing how we celebrated and what we did before our birthday party celebration yesterday. Building a team culture and company review days, what we do in our businesses with our team to get them on board for the journey, to show them the roadmap, and more importantly, get their feedback and advice and allow them to ask questions. Assisted sale completion, we've got an assisted sale we're sharing, and completion date is now fixed for next week. So we're super excited to get that one closed off. Equity funding, our biggest equity fundraise for our biggest deal, and we'll be sharing what that deal looks like. And we're super excited to get stuck into that project. Valuations, I've heard, well, ever since we've been in this industry of down valuations, there's certain tools and tricks and sort of professional packs that we put together to support getting the right valuation. Aura are recruiting, and we'll be sharing about what that role looks like. Business coaching and why you would potentially need it. We've got a free opportunity for someone, so make sure you stay tuned until that slide. Sunset Court, which is our 6-unit site development. We've got a fun update, which we will be sharing, which has been delaying us, and I think it's the story of developers with these delays at the moment. And I think if we had a pound for every time we said there's been a delay in some capacity, we'd be doing all right. Our podcast launch, we'll be sharing more details on that. And then finally, we have some questions which were asked last week, and we'll be answering those in detail.
So one of those questions was this: how do you work out compounding interest on an Excel spreadsheet? For those Excel nerds out there, if you know the answer, comment below. We will be going through this question and a couple of other ones that you guys presented to us last week at the end of this episode. So do stay tuned for that. Cool. So XP turned 5 this week. So I think the 18th of July 2018 is when Jack and I formally set up the company, which seems like a long time ago. It's been a roller coaster ride, as most business owners and property developers will know. But it's been fun. You know, we've done a lot of stuff in those 5 years. I think we've probably done 10 to 15 years worth of work in those 5 years crammed in. We've done an extremely we've done a lot, and you know, there's more to come. So how do we celebrate it? We put on a party. We had people in our office, put on some food and a nice spread and lots of drinks, and invited all of our investment partners, our solicitors, our friends, our family, everyone to come and celebrate with us.
I think it's worth pointing out, we looked at some stats, and only 45% of businesses that are set up in the UK make it past their 5th birthday. So we believe we've conquered that goal, and the next one is 25% of businesses make their 15th birthday. So that's where we're headed next.
Nice. Good stuff. So on to that, and getting to those 15 years, you can't get through many years of business without having a good team with you to help you grow and help you move forward. So we, a couple of years ago now, I guess, started doing a group strategy session every quarter, or every sort of 3 times a year effectively, where we get all of our teams across the group. So XP Property, XP Surveys, Central Suites and Aura Architecture, all coming together to discuss what's happened in the past 4 or 5 months since the last one, what direction we're heading in, what pipeline we've got of exciting work coming through, and generally just to get some feedback from the team. We can survey the the start of a project, we can design a project, we can develop a project, and we can manage the project through our ecosystem of businesses. So actually giving some of the people in the surveying practice an insight into what's being carried out on site, or what's being designed or being proposed from the existing property that they surveyed, we get really good feedback from that. It's great for that team to see how a project evolves, and this is an opportunity to do that. So building a team culture is something that's really key for anyone in business, and having a bad egg in amongst your team can really drag not only kind of the whole team down, but also the business. So building a culture where everyone wants to work for everyone, it's a high performance team and culture surrounding them is very, very important.
I think before we move on from this one, I wanted to sort of allude to a point. Quite frequently, I hear businesses explained to be similar to a school, and if most businesses, they focus very heavily on external meetings. But if you look at a school, the headmaster is the managing director, the teachers are the management team, and the pupils are the staff. If you think about how frequently schools have assemblies, beginning of term assembly, weekly assemblies, to get everyone on the roadmap of what's going to be happening in the next week, in the next month, in the next quarter. So there's a lot that could be said for bringing everyone into one room, internal meetings, so everyone knows what's going on. We see our ecosystem of businesses almost like departments. So we've obviously got, the systems of the surveying company, the architectural practice, the management and lettings business, and the development company. And we feel each of those is almost a department within one umbrella. So they all need to know what's going on and communicate with each other. I think it's been a bit of a game changer, and also knowing that our staff can comfortably say that what we do across the business without having to think about it or ask loads of questions, because that opportunity is there for them to take that information on board and ask the questions so they can get their head around what other things are going on in the business.
Yeah, very true. Cool. Next point.
On to the assisted sale. So for those of you that don't know what an assisted sale is, it's sort of a strategy that Ben and I stumbled upon when we were bidding on houses back a few years ago, and we couldn't make the numbers work. Our purchase price to the costs, we just weren't getting to the values expectations of the vendor. So what we decided to do was, rather than actually just go straight on and try and acquire the site and technically be working against the vendor and bidding as low as we can, because our costs for stamp duty, purchase costs, finance costs at the beginning are going in. Ben's just sharing a video of an assisted sale that we put on YouTube. But rather than fighting against the vendor, we go, I tell you what, let's agree a price, lock that in, joint venture. We don't buy the asset, but we deliver everything that we would have done as exactly the same. And that result means that we save the stamp duty and land tax costs, we save some of the acquisition costs, we save some of the finance arrangement fees. We still deliver the same project and sell it. What the vendor gets is they get a better value for their house at the end. We are the ones that are obviously orchestrating, basically delivering the scheme, using our expertise, using our build teams, adding value, and the profit is split. Why this is topical at the moment, and if you want to know more about assisted sales, go and watch that video on YouTube. But why this is topical is we've now, it went under offer about 6 weeks ago, and we're due to complete this week coming. So that's in and out in this project within 7 months. We've spent £28,000 on a refurbishment. That was our total capital expenditure. We've saved stamp duty, we saved legal costs. We've agreed a sale price at 385, which is the asking price, and the profit will be 51,000. So the vendor takes home 325,000. They were quoted that the house was probably worth 310,000. So that's a win for the vendor. And for us, we're due to take around £25,000 after costs. So it's almost 100% back on our expenditure within 7 months. And it'll be great to hear. I've had naysayers say that our ROIs are off the chart or incorrect, but that is a live deal where we're making 100% within 7 months, at arguably almost 200% within an annualized rate of return, which is a stonking return. Small profit, small deal, but a really good, strong return. Nice. Thanks, Andrew. See your comments coming in.
Good stuff. You can take this one as well if you want.
Yeah, cool. So we've been working behind the scenes to pull all of the elements that we need to purchase a site together. This site is in Oxfordshire. It's a large office building. It's about 16,000 square feet. So from a massing perspective, it is our biggest project that we're taking on to date, which doesn't really bother us because it's the same thing. Just, they say the phrase with an extra zero or slightly larger, we're still delivering the exact same process that we do with the successful schemes that we've already delivered. But we're pleased to say that we've pushed heads of terms to an investor and we've secured our equity funding. The first charge lender is there, ready to go. So hopefully in a matter of maybe days and not weeks, we'll be exchanging on this site and taking this into 2025, working on the planning. We believe that we will end up with 27 flats and potentially some new build houses in addition in the car park. So we're super excited to get going on this site. It's directly between two of our existing office conversion sites, between Princess Risborough and Abingdon. So from a location perspective, we're keen to get it going. And you can see there that it has, and talking about pipeline, we have quite a strong pipeline and deals do take quite long to get over the line. So you can see from that photo, there's actually snow on the ground back when we viewed it, but super excited to get going. This could be, and we were discussing yesterday, our first 8-figure gross development value scheme that XP are delivering. So we're very keen to bring all the team on board to deliver this scheme over the next couple of years.
It's probably worth saying that this already has planning approval for 22 units under the old Class O permitted development rights. And we will be going back in with a Class MA application to enhance that scheme to 27 flats, like Jack said. There's some wider improvements to also enhance the external appearance by adding some balconies and some roof terraces. And then the future planning will be a full planning application to get some extra units in the car park. Whether that be flats or houses is really down to kind of the detailed design process and how that pans out. So stay tuned for more on that scheme.
Just before, Ben, can you go back one? I was just going to share probably a bit of a tip to help people get deals over the line. This one is a good example. We were struggling to get to the valuation that the vendor wanted to buy the site. And obviously we're competing against other bidders. So if there's anyone out there listening that's got the problem that they're bidding on something and can't quite get to the value that they need to get the site agreed and bought, what we agreed with this vendor is we will pay them a value day one, which is 2.35, to buy the site and do the conversion. And we dangled the carrot with an overage agreement, which is basically a delayed payment conditional on us getting more planning. So if we don't get the planning, we don't pay for it. If we do, we do pay them for it. But there's a margin in there that's kept for our planning gain and our endeavours of taking that risk. But we've also agreed, so as a secondary chunk of sort of purchase value that gets shared with the vendor, and that sort of share agreement, that was what it really enabled us to get this at such a good value, and to really make the conversion on its own merits a really profitable scheme, but also gave the vendor some upsides if we could really maximise the site. So just a bit of a tip on overages. If anyone's got any question on overages, comment overage or ping me a line and we can help you try and get some deals over the line, because it certainly helped.
Nice. Cool. So we've had a number of valuations this week. We are valuing the old Maltings based on getting a development facility to build out a 20-unit scheme. We've got the 16-unit scheme in the bag, and we're going back in for enhanced sort of PD for 20 units. So we are refinancing, and refinance it. When you're refinancing, you will often need a valuation to be undertaken. So we've got the old Maltings, and we've also had a valuation undertaken for Sunset Court to move on to an exit bridge. So we wanted to quickly sort of run through the types of things that we do when we do our valuation packs. So I'm just going to try and bring that up on screen very quickly. The
whole purpose of the valuation packs is when you're buying a site and you've got a bank that's helping you purchase the property, and even sometimes equity investors would like to see valuations. Obviously, the bank wants an external surveyor to sort of hang their hat on the valuation and the risks, and that they do a SWOT analysis and things like that. the whole purpose of why Ben and myself and the team pulled together quite a comprehensive pack is to make sure that the surveyor can sort of live the story of what we see fit. What we've got to remember is when a surveyor is going to site, they only have probably an hour or two on inspection, and then the remainder of that week to draw up the report. When we're taking on a site in a valuation stage, we've probably spent hundreds of hours getting to know the site intimately, understanding the journey, understanding what sort of market risk there might be, what construction constraints there might be, what spatial awareness we have on the site. So it's to bring that surveyor on the same journey so that they can sort of see the story. So we're creating a story, and subtly putting values in their minds that we would like to see and we believe see fit. So you don't end up with a valuation that's not worth the paper it's written on because it's come in low or they haven't understood the spec, which is understandable. It's not, if a surveyor is knocking out 4 or 5 surveys a week, it is quite confusing, especially when Ben mentioned that we've got 3 or 4 planning applications on this scheme, and it is quite a lot to take in such a short period of time for a surveyor. So making their life easy will help you get the values that you need.
Exactly that. You're fundamentally trying to do most of their work for them, and sort of spoon feeding them the information that they want to make their decision making and their report writing as quick as possible, because it's only going to benefit you in the long run. So I just thought I'd flick through some of this. You've got a project summary which sort of gives the key headline figures, a little bit about the history of the site in terms of the planning applications that have been submitted, and the value enhancements that you are going to be doing. Some insight into what the project looks like, some comparables, whether that be sort of the existing commercial valuation of the existing property, some sort of headline plans of what we're proposing, the residential sales market valuation comparables from local agents, if you can get some of those, broken down into a schedule of accommodation and pricing list like you see on the screen.
Most agents are quite happy to do this for you because they get excited about the potential resales at the back end. They're willing to do that work up front.
Exactly that. We've I've been on the phone to 3 agents in Marlow today doing exactly that for another 8-unit scheme in Marlow. So spoke to Savills, spoke to a couple of other estate agents, sent them an email, and typically within 48 hours they'll get back to you with a breakdown and a schedule of accommodation and a pricing list. Some other comparables that might be relevant. And then as an appendix, often a valuer is going to want to know what style of finish and specification you're going to be building to, because that could be very vast depending on which developer you're talking to. So having an appendix of some of your previous projects like this one, a Rightmove link to the live link showing the professional photos, which you've got down here, the type and specification that you're building to is great, and then basically some examples of some of the other projects that you've worked on, to show that you're very capable of delivering the scheme that you're setting out. And that's a little bit about how we run our valuation packs and what we include within them. Cool. So moving on to point number 6, which is aura and recruitment. For those that haven't tuned in to us before, I've been running an architectural practice for the last 6 years, based in Clapham in London. We're a team of 15 now, and we're looking to grow that. We've just had a number of people go back to university to study their next stage of architecture. So we're hiring a part 2 / part 3 architect, or newly qualified architect level. And these are the types of exciting projects that we work on. Big house extensions, including sort of side and rear loft extensions. This one's got a large basement and is about 4,500 square foot of family home. This is a 6,000 square foot grade 2 listed building in Hertfordshire. And this is a really sort of large overhaul extensions to the ground floor, loft, and internal refurbishment of a family home in Wimbledon. So if you know anyone that is looking to jump ship and join a very talented team of architects and designers, we would love to hear from you. recruitment@aurahomes.co.uk is the email address to send a CV and covering letter to.
Cool. Business coaching. Shall I take this one?
Cool.
So Ben and I decided to basically one of these 5 p.m. lives, we've decided to do a live business coaching call in replacement of these weekly updates. So Ben and I do business coaching, and we've got multiple mentees that we work with, and we focus on accountability, strategies, goals for a year, goals for 5 years. We boil that down. We give them, we offer up quite a lot of our systems, processes, analysis tools that we use. And we really want to, show what we do day to day, and do a business coaching live. So if there's anyone out there listening that would like us to do a business sort of round robin on your constraints, your growth pains, your staffing problems, how you can improve gross profit margins, how you can integrate goals into your business plan, what locations you're looking to invest in, what strategy you're looking to do, please hit us a message. So comment business coaching or business coaching live, and we will come round to contact you. We can only do it with one person for now, so please do make sure you make the application first come, first served to some degree. Ben and I actually featured on a podcast with James Sinclair, who's a business entrepreneur, and he basically did that with us with XP Surveys. He basically rattled out all the potential problems and kinks in the business and advised what we could be doing. And it's also good to have someone else's opinion on what you're up to and what you're doing. So it's hopefully some huge value there. You've got to be prepared to come on our live and have our listeners watching as well. So be prepared for that, but it would be great to have someone coming on so that we could run this test exercise.
Nice. Cool. Sunset Court. We're there with the electrical connections, which is absolutely great news. We've been waiting months and months and months for UKPN to power and energize our site, and Tuesday this week they did so. Meter installations are being finished off the day, so the whole site now has power, which is absolutely brilliant. The only downside is that Thames Water have only just got back to us with a date for installation to make their water connections. That has been a 9-month process, if you believe that. On the 12th of August last year, we paid them £12,000 for these water connections. We had our water regulation sign off in November last year, and here we are sort of 8 months later, with an installation date a month from now. So it's holding up all of our sales now, which is costing us obviously a fortune with interest payments. Not that Thames Water really care, but we've got a date installed. We've got building control and the warranty provider coming out next week to do their sort of final inspections. We're hoping to line up all of the certification so that as soon as the Thames Water connection is made and we've got everything commissioned, we can get these sales over the line. So we've actually got 4 of the 6 under offer, going through the legal process at the moment, and we hope to complete them by the end of August, all 3, maybe 4 of those. And I'm going to use one of these. There you go.
You can get away with that now. You got a son.
Yeah. Cool. Next point. So the Property Experts podcast is essentially at the moment a audio version of this Friday live on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. If you're listening on the video format and watching in on the video format, just for everyone's awareness, we have now launched the PXP podcast. It's going to contain all of the audio outtakes from these lives. We had a lot of people say, we'd love to join, we'd love to listen in, but we're on the road, or we don't have time on a Friday afternoon, or having it in an audio format would just be best for me. So we did it. You asked for it. We've done it. We've launched the Property Experts podcast. It's on all of your normal channels: Spotify, Castbox, Amazon, Apple. So whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, head over, follow us, subscribe. And if you missed any previous episode, you can catch up on the full catalogue of, I think, about 27 episodes. At the moment, we're up to about episode 6 being launched, but we're going to be launching all of those back catalogues in the next couple of weeks. Anything you wanted to say on that?
No, not in particular. And obviously, you guys can feed the conversations that we talk about. So make sure you ask questions in these, and we can then bring them up the following week, so we can hopefully drive more bespoke value to you guys. The Q&A is really important for this, and then that obviously feeds into the podcast.
Cool. And on to that, yeah, we've been wanting people to engage with that process for a while. So we were really happy that last week, actually, a number of people either private messaged us or messaged on our live episodes last week. And Mimi was one of those. So actually, Mimi asked 2 questions, and we're going to discuss them now. And we'd like to be doing this every week. So, you know, we can share what we're doing in our business and how we're overcoming problems, and give you some tips and tricks to kind of help you in your business. But if you've got specific problems that you want dealing with, or you want answered, this is the opportunity to get your questions in, and we will hopefully bring up 3 or 4 questions every week that are, you know, crowdsourced from you guys listening, to answer and discuss live on the episode. So Mimi asked, would you stress test the same with a new build and commercial conversion? If you missed last week's episode, we talked about how we stress test 10% drop in GDV, a 15% increase in build cost, and an extension of 6 months onto the development, and then doomsday scenario, worst case scenario, all 3 of those together. And we don't generally do a deal unless the doomsday scenario is still profitable. So Mimi asked, would you stress test the same with a new build and commercial conversion? My answer to that is I would. Yeah. We already have contingencies in our development appraisals. So a new build conversion, a new build contingency may well be 5%, 5 to 8%, for example, whereas a commercial conversion, you might be up at a 10% contingency, depending on how confident you are with your numbers. In terms of stress testing, though, it's kind of aside from a contingency. You're stress testing really kind of worst case scenarios and other factors that aren't necessarily just build cost contingencies. So yeah, I would still stress test the same, whether it's a new build or commercial conversion. Jack, thoughts?
Yeah, I was told a phrase a few years ago when we were all sort of starting up in property, and someone said that running a property business or doing property investing or doing projects is a bit like walking down a corridor, and you've got to shut all the doors as you go down the corridor, and when you shut all the doors, the project's complete. And I actually rephrased that and sort of have my own take on that. And the way that I see our business is we shut the riskiest or the hardest door first, so that our time is warranted to go on to the next door. I feel that you can go all the way through stress testing and looking at a scheme, and if you don't address the riskiest parts of a deal first, you're getting into a position where it might overturn, or you might not actually know the right amount of information or rectifying or resolving problems. So we try and attack the big problems first, and that tends to be in project development, you know, your gross development stress testing, your build stress testing, and also duration, and they all obviously impact your finance costs. So we have to do it across the board. Ben mentioned that we have a contingency of 8% in our build costs, which then sits on top of our 15% contingency. So we're actually factoring in a 23% overspend in all of our deals, and the deals still work. So I feel every deal should be always stress tested with a similar process, but each deal is very different. There's quite a famous site in Henley that was bought by Taylor Wimpey, and they basically didn't do any trial digs, and they found out that they couldn't deliver the 90 homes that they thought they could on that site, and they still haven't come up with a drainage strategy. So that's an example of they could have stress tested the build cost, the gross development value, and the 6 months or even longer duration. But in reality, there's risks with all sites, and you've got to make sure that you have a methodical process to assess all the risks and address the riskiest ones first, because if you can't resolve the riskiest one, you're better off not doing the deal, and you haven't spent money on all the other areas that you have. So it's a bit about assessing where, you know, the bigger risks first. But that's all I wanted to add.
Nice. Bushra likes our caricatures.
I say we look like a blend of Chuck Norris's children.
Thanks, Bushra. Second question from Mimi: at what stage i.e. sixth development or third year into property, did you use main contractors versus subcontractors for your developments? Or does it depend on what development you're doing? E.g. a HMO might be subcontractors and a new build might be main contractors. So to be honest, all of the schemes that we've done over the last 5 years have been with main contractors. We've packaged up one, maybe two of our projects into sort of contract managed packages. So the business box in Reading, for example, that was an extension to an existing office space. We packaged up the groundworks, some of the facade works, and then the internal refurbishment to a fit out contractor. So kind of 3 separate sort of contractors, but more of a package deal as opposed to necessarily bringing in the subcontractors like your electrician, your plumbers, your plasterers, all individually. We had this debate in the developer club this week, and almost everyone said you are very, very brave if you do want to go down and manage the subcontractor route yourself. You're effectively becoming a contractor yourself, and that comes with all sorts of implications with CIS, with people management, with a lot of headaches and potential sort of supplier issues and delivery issues, and it's a minefield. So most of the schemes, almost all of the schemes that we've done, have been a JCT contract with a main contractor, putting the risk onto them. And really just kind of our job is then to drive those contractors to deliver on what they said they would do.
Yeah, I would also add, in addition to that having said what Ben said, when we're taking on sites, we're taking the investment risk, the planning risk, sometimes the construction risk, the sale market risk. We don't want the construction risk, and if I'm honest, our margins tend to outperform what construction people do make. So we'll stick with that part. But what I will say, and where I think there's a fair analysis on managing subcontractors or getting a main contractor, is the first, a few HMOs that we have done, we have managed trades. The first HMO we did in Henley-on-Thames, we brought in the 3 or 4 trades and we managed them. Reason being, we didn't have a trusted builder that we could actually give the project to and go, right, we want a turnkey solution. Obviously, we're going to do some management and design management and material management, etc. But we didn't outsource that to a main contractor. If you plan to do 1 or 2 projects every year, that might be okay. But we want a scalable business model, and that is not scalable if you are managing the trades, because there's so many other things that you need to be doing. So for us, we would much rather pay a little bit more, put that risk and onerous, and also most importantly time on the contractor, so that we have a scalable business model. We can now throw 3 or 4 HMOs at our contractors to deliver them without putting much time into that project. If we were managing trades, I'd struggle to manage 4 projects. So that's another thing. Where do you want to go? Do you want to be ramping up to 10 projects a year, or is it just 1 a year, or one every 5 years? That may be a good analysis and sort of goal perspective to assess, whether you want to do that yourself.
Yeah, nice. I would say as you grow in scale, so looking at the other end of the scale, I used to work for the Berkeley Group. Now they've got a massive in-house internal team, and the projects are so big that actually, there's no way you could just give it to one main contractor. It has to be packaged up into a facade package, an RC frame package, a landscape package, a basement package. All of those individuals, I guess, are they're subcontract elements, but they're often with big main contractors that specialize in those individual kind of skill sets. So there will be a turning point, I would imagine, if we grow to a big enough scale whereby the schemes that we're working on are best placed on a contract by contract basis, then that might be the route that we go down. But certainly when you're an SME developer doing even things up to 30, 40 units, I just think, a main contractor is going to de-risk it for you significantly.
Yeah,
cool.
I would also add, if you do work with a main contractor, we try and, in the different locations that we work, split that up between different construction firms, just so we're not wearing risk on one delivery partner that could, you can't control their internal processes or the cash flow or whatever it may be. So we do try and break that risk up too.
Cool. So we asked at the beginning of the episode, how do you work out compounding interest on an Excel spreadsheet? That was actually a question that came into us when we were talking about one of our spreadsheets last week. So we thought we'd have a quick sort of session on that. This is what you need. Effectively, the 1.05 is the interest rate. So the 0.05 is a 5% interest rate, and you want to be multiplying that by a factor of 5, which is the number of years you're trying to calculate. So a 5% interest over a 5-year time horizon compounded can be calculated using some value times 1.05 to the power of 5. There you go.
Yeah. So this might be useful if you are trying to work out your compounding value of an investment. So like Ben said, maybe you've got an investment of 5% that compounds every year. You can actually compound it by months. So you work out the monthly interest rate, and then obviously to the power of 5 would then be the running months. So that might be useful for that. But what we have actually used this for is in our portfolio building product, we want to work out roughly what sort of capital appreciation we might get in our projects, not really to work out the profit and loss and the scalability of that, but just out of interest. So that's capital appreciation value increasing, which is something that we'd like to see the value of.
Yeah, nice. There's just one more question, which Andrew has commented this week down below, which is exactly what we want you guys to do, and that is best way to get investors on board and proposing potential development. Jack, do you want to quickly give you 2 minutes?
Of course, okay. So we say investment is something that you should always be doing in your business. There's always topics of chicken and egg scenario. What comes first, the deal or the investor? The deal does help bring investment and also helps you understand and they understand how you might work together and speak about a project and the questions that you might ask. The way we fund our projects with investment partners is we're always looking for deals, as you've probably noticed, and we're always networking and building rapport and meeting up with people that we would want to work with, which are investors. We sort of quite frequently book in frequent calls with potential investors. And then when the deal comes, what we have as a process, and I'll come back to that in a second on how we meet those investors. But what we do is we build a snapshot of the deal, which is just headline figures. So name of the project, where it's located, and then the buy, the build, and the sales value, proposed profit margin or anticipated profit margin. And we send that deck out to our sort of a handful of investors that we might work with. The reason we keep it short and sharp is you will find if you share too much information, it could be misleading, misunderstood, or overwhelming. So we'd rather get them on a call. So that's technically just to get them on a call and just to spark their interest, make sure they're happy with the location, with you, and with the investment amount, and then they jump on a call and you can go into a lot more detail. I hear Andrew ticking away and thinking, how do you get the investors on your mailing list or in your diary to speak to them? Investors exist everywhere, and there is no said and done successful way to find them. We've had investors approach us of podcasts that we've featured in, interviews that we've featured in. We've bumped into some of them in a street. Some of them have been family friends, and they've been watching us for years and then come back. We've had most of our success at networking events. So you see Ben and I speak or attend networking events. That's quite a straightforward way. People are normally there commercially minded to maximize the returns on their capital and are looking for the borrower, which is us, and they are the lender. You could meet them in a golf course, in a spa. You could meet them on holiday. There is no said secret, but what I would advise everyone is to build a process, build a marketing process as well, so that they're getting frequent emails from you, giving them updates. But in short, we sort of nurse them along in conversations, and quite frequently there isn't anything to talk about deal-wise. So when there is, they're warm, and then we send them the deck, do a Zoom call, then we normally meet them on site, and then that's how we go about it. All of our investors are stored on an Excel sheet, and quite frequently we don't go to everyone on every deal because of location, size, value, type of project might suit one of them more than others, and we tend to sort of pick that in-house. Hope that's helped you, Andrew, and any other listeners out there. Obviously keep questions coming in, but I think that's pretty much us all tied up.
Yeah, almost 40 minutes, which is a lot longer than the normal 30 minutes that we go to. But it's been really good to get those questions in, and we're keen to do more of that kind of live Q&A to help you answer the questions that you have yourselves. So yeah, that's it from us this week. Tune in next Friday at 5 p.m. and go and follow us on the relevant Spotify and podcast platforms. See you soon.